Right now, as you listen to my voice, a perfect crime is being committed against you. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and you certainly can't feel it, but it is ruthlessly stripping you of your future, one agonizing penny at a time. This isn't a scenario from a Hollywood thriller. It is the uncomfortable reality pulsing beneath the surface of your daily life. And the most terrifying part is that you are likely celebrating the very instrument of your destruction. Hello, and welcome to Lily Invests. I'm glad you're here, because what I'm about to reveal is something the financial world desperately hopes you never figure out. If you find value in this investigation into the truth, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support is the only fuel that allows me to keep digging deeper for you. You look at your bank account right now, and you see a number. Maybe it's $10,000, perhaps even $50,000, sitting there perfectly safe, perfectly secure. You probably feel a profound sense of responsibility, even a quiet surge of pride. You've done exactly what society, your teachers, and your protective parents always told you to do. You saved. You didn't blow it on a depreciating luxury. You built a fortress. But you are actually the prideful victim of a mathematical crime, and that money isn't sitting there protecting you. It is evaporating right in front of your eyes. While you sleep, an invisible tax is continuously gassing the value of every single dollar you own. You believe you're building a safety net, but you are actually constructing a trap that guarantees you will become poorer every single day you leave that money stagnant. This is the silent heist. The math is gut-wrenching. If you have $50,000 in a standard account today, inflation relentlessly drives up the cost of living while paying you fractions of a percent, meaning that in 10 years, that pile of cash will likely have the purchasing power of only $37,000. You didn't buy a car, you didn't go on a cruise, you didn't even buy a sandwich. You just watched $13,000 of your life's energy vanish into the ether, having effectively paid a 2.6% annual fee for the privilege of letting your hard-earned cash sit there and rot while the bank uses your capital to fund their own growth. It makes me sick to my stomach, and by the end of this conversation, I am going to show you why that cherished emergency fund might actually be your biggest financial liability. But if the math is so clearly stacked against us, why does it feel so damn good to see that stagnant balance in our checking account? The answer isn't that you are incapable of logic. It's that your biology is a double agent working against you in a modern financial environment. We are fighting a war against our own evolution, trying to manage 21st century fiat currency with a brain that was hardwired for the savannah. I've spent countless hours looking at these patterns, and I've realized that we have a biological glitch that the financial system has learned to weaponize with terrifying precision. It all starts in the dark, primitive corners of your mind. We've discussed the concept of the poverty brain before. That state where growing up with financial instability or witnessing economic chaos rewires your neural pathways. It turns every expense into a mortal threat, and every dollar in the bank into a survival tool. When you see a large pile of cash in your savings account, it acts like a powerful sedative for your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight response. It tells your lizard brain that you have gathered enough nuts for the winter, that you are safe from the wolves, and that you have a buffer against the unknown. That safety feels like a warm blanket, but in reality, it is numbing the very logic you need to survive. This false sense of security triggers a phenomenon in behavioral finance called loss aversion, and it is the primary reason you are staying poor. Psychologically, the pain of losing money is twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining it. This is why you are terrified of seeing red numbers on an investment screen. You would rather endure the slow, invisible rot of inflation, which doesn't trigger a panic response because the nominal balance stays the same, than face the temporary, visible fluctuation of the stock market. You are choosing the guaranteed loss of purchasing power over the potential gain of the market because your brain perceives static as safe. I see this every day. People clinging to cash as if it were oxygen, when it's actually more like a lid weight. Think of it this way. Keeping $100,000 in a low-interest bank account for a disaster that might only cost you $5,000 is like wearing a 100-pound suit of lead armor every single day, so just in case someone decides to throw a pebble at you. You are so heavily protected from the small, manageable threats that you're unable to move, unable to grow, and ultimately you are being crushed by the weight of your own protection. You're not safe. You're just stationary while the world moves past you. To break free from the safety trap, we have to recognize that our instinct for hoarding was meant for physical resources, not depreciating currency. Your brain is being hacked by its own primitive instincts. You have to ask yourself, who is actually benefiting from this psychological paralysis? To find the answer, we have to walk past the heavy oak doors and behind the cold, polished plexiglass of the banking industry. You need to stop thinking of a bank as a high-tech storage locker where your specific dollar bills sit in a dark, velvet-lined vault waiting for your return. That is the fairy tale they sell you in commercials with soft lighting and smiling families. The reality is far more clinical and, frankly, predatory. Banks are not storage facilities. They are profit-maximizing corporations that treat your hard-earned deposits as the free raw material for their own wealth creation. This is the cold world of fractional reserve banking, a system where the bank is only legally required to keep a tiny, negligible fraction of your cash on hand, often 10% or even less. The moment you hand over your $50,000, that money is gone before you've even walked back to your car. It is immediately chopped up and deployed as someone else's 7% car loan, or far worse, someone's 25% interest credit card debt. While you are home, feeling safe because you see a digital number on an app, your life's energy is out in the world, working 24/7 to generate massive compounding returns for the bank's shareholders. They are paying you fractions of a percent, mere crumbs from the feast they are having with your capital, while they rake in the spread. This is the arbitraging of fear. When you hoard cash in a low-interest account, you aren't just a customer. You are essentially working as an unpaid employee of the bank. You provide the liquidity they need to fund their lending empire. You take the risk of the currency losing its power, and they keep the profit. It's a brilliant, if ethically questionable, business model that depends entirely on your desire for security. Think about the marketing for a second. Why do you think banks spend billions of dollars on advertisements or offer you a free toaster or a $200 bonus just to open a new account? It isn't because they are generous. It's because they know the lifetime value of your deposits is worth thousands of times more than that plastic appliance or that small cash incentive. They are buying your capital at a massive discount, leveraging your biological need for safety against their sophisticated knowledge of the financial plumbing. But the most heartbreaking part of this entire charade isn't just that the banks are getting rich. It's the astronomical price you are paying for the illusion of peace of mind. Every time you choose the safe savings account for money you don't actually need, you aren't just protecting your capital, you are attending the funeral of your own potential. I want to rip the Band-Aid off and look at a number that should actually keep you up at night. It's a number called opportunity cost, and it is the specific price tag on your fear. This is the most expensive bill you will ever pay, and it's one that never shows up on a bank statement. Let's look at the math that reveals the true damage of playing it safe. Imagine you are overly conservative and decide to keep $50,000 in your savings account just in case. You probably only need about $10,000 for a true life-altering emergency, but that extra $40,000 makes you feel comfortable. It's your security blanket. However, if you took that excess $40,000, money you didn't need to touch for 30 years, and invested it in a boring, low-cost index fund, averaging a 10% annual return, that money would grow to approximately $697,000. That means your decision to keep that money in the bank for emotional comfort didn't cost you nothing. It actually cost you over $650,000 in lost future wealth. You are effectively paying the bank hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime to babysit money that was never in danger to begin with. That is, without a doubt, the most expensive insurance policy on the planet. And the system is designed to make sure you stay on this treadmill. Think about the tax code for a moment. Interest income from your savings account is taxed at your ordinary income tax rate, the highest rate you pay, the same rate as the sweat and blood you trade for a paycheck. But capital gains from investments held for more than a year are taxed at a much lower rate. By keeping your money in savings, you are subjecting yourself to the highest possible taxes on the lowest possible returns. It is a recipe for financial stagnation, designed to reward owners and punish savers. This is why the middle class feels like they are running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. If you're feeling the weight of that six-figure loss now, good. That pain is the spark you need to stop drowning in your own liquidity and finally implement a strategy that balances your psychological sanity with mathematical reality. I am not here to suggest you drain your bank account to zero and throw it all on a high-stakes gamble. That would be replacing one form of financial suicide with another. Liquidity is like oxygen. You need enough to breathe, but you don't want to spend your entire life underwater. To escape the safety trap, we have to deploy a specific algorithm I call the liquidity ladder. It is a structure that allows you to satisfy your primitive need for security without sabotaging the person you are going to be in what I call your sleep well buffer. This lives in your primary checking account, and its purpose is purely mechanical. It should cover exactly 1 month of your expenses, plus a small, fixed buffer of perhaps $1,000. This is the grease that keeps the engine of your daily life running, so you never have to worry about a bill or a surprise overdraft. You don't care about the return on this money. You don't care that it is losing value to inflation because its value lies entirely in its utility and convenience. This is the only money that belongs in a traditional, big-name bank. The second rung is your actual emergency fund, and this is where I need you to be brutally honest with yourself, because we have a terrible habit of treating our savings like a slush fund for life's predictable inconveniences. Listen to me. A roof replacement in 5 years is not an emergency. A vacation is not an emergency. A car that you know is on its last legs is not an emergency. Those are planned capital expenditures that should live in their own separate buckets. Your true emergency fund is financial insurance designed for one thing: to prevent you from being forced to sell your long-term assets at the absolute bottom of a market crash. If you are single and rent, you need 3 months of essential expenses. If you have a family, a mortgage, or an unstable career, you aim for 6. This money should live in a high-yield savings account, WISA, earning 4 or 5%, where it can actually fight back against the invisible tax while staying liquid enough to grab in a crisis. But here is the part where most people fail. Once that second bucket is full, you must have the discipline to stop filling it. The poverty brain will scream at you to keep adding more, thinking that a bigger pile equals more safety. It is a lie. Every single additional dollar that comes in after your emergency fund is capped must be redirected into the third rung, your wealth engine. This is where you deploy capital into tax-advantaged retirement accounts or taxable brokerage accounts. This is where you buy index funds, real estate, or productive businesses, assets that allow you to own a piece of the global economy. Building that ladder is a necessary structural change, but the real transformation happens when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of the bank and start seeing yourself as the CEO of your own financial empire. This requires a fundamental shift in your identity, moving away from being a saver, someone who huddles over a stagnant pile of cash hoping it's enough to survive, to becoming a capital allocator. A capital allocator views every single dollar as a dedicated employee with a specific mission. Right now, if you have money sitting idle in a basic checking account above your buffer, you have employees sleeping on the job. You need to fire them from their comfortable, lazy positions and move them to a department where they have to work, sweat, and compound. Your investment portfolio. I know the transition feels like jumping off a cliff. I've stood on that same edge, staring at the screen, afraid that the moment I click buy, the world will fall apart. If you are paralyzed by the fear of a market crash, stop trying to outsmart the system or time the top. Use dollar cost averaging. DCA. Take your excess cash, divide it into 6 equal chunks, and automate a transfer on the first of every month for the next half year. This removes the human emotion and the poverty brain from the equation entirely. When the market drops, you don't panic. You actually celebrate because your automatic transfer is buying more shares at a discount, lowering your cost basis while everyone else is running for the exits. You are turning volatility into your greatest psychological weapon. You have to understand that if you have decades ahead of you, your biggest risk isn't the stock market going down temporarily. It is the absolute mathematical certainty of running out of money in your old age because you played it too safe today. Cash is a guaranteed loss of power. Assets are the only reliable engine of growth. The difference between the two is the difference between retiring in dignity and being forced to work until the day your body simply gives out. Think about the legacy you want to leave. Do you want to teach your children to live in a state of scarcity, hoarding paper as it rots in a vault? Or do you want to teach them to be masters of capital who understand how to own a piece of the world's progress? Breaking the cycle of the safety trap isn't just about your bank balance. It's about changing the financial trajectory of your entire family tree. Calculate your burn rate today. Cap your cash. Invest the rest. Your future self is counting on the courage you show in this moment. Don't let them down.